You are listening to KC Sports Network, the #1 podcast network for today's Kansas City sports fans. With former players from your favorite teams, informed perspectives, and former insiders, this is the place for you. KC Sports Network is proudly presented by Emprise Bank, your partner in possible.
Tries to win it. KU wins. The Missouri Tigers and the Kansas Jayhawks.
Welcome, everybody, to the Border War podcast on the Kansas City Sports Network. We are presented by 360 Vodka. My name is Jarrett Sutton, and I'm joined, as always, by the birthday boy this week, Jeff Hawkins, who turns 40 today. Jeff, happy birthday.
Appreciate
How's
it.
it feel, man? How's the birthday going so far?
So far, so good. You know, just got back from Cheesecake Factory with the family. So
That's a win in itself.
Yeah, it is. So I had a good meal. I'm going to have to work some of this cheesecake off tonight. But it feels a little bit different. I didn't realize, it was such a big jump from 39 to 40 mentally. So I'm good, though, man. I'm just, blessed to be able to say that I lived to be 40. So
I was just thinking, you're 40, but you still look like you could still play. So that's the goal. That's the goal.
You said it. You said it best. Still look like. Yeah.
Right.
Can't play no more.
You passed the test. That's all that matters. Well, Jeff, we'll get started here. With the Missouri Tigers, and
for sure,
good start for Dennis Gates' program the other night on Monday, where they get a convincing 97-91 win, high scoring game. Mizzou was led by Kobe Brown, who was great for Mizzou. Ended up having a double-double. Had 24 and 14, 9 of 14 from the field. Really led the charge. And Coach Gates talked a lot about, they're still getting better. He said they're a totally different team now than they were 2 weeks ago. And in 2 weeks, they're going to be a totally different team. Yeah. So his point was there's still a lot of things they got to work out. They can score the basketball. This team's going to play an up-tempo style. They are a small ball team right now, but they score 97 points.
Yeah.
And Kobe Brown, Isaiah Mosley, and Noah Carter, arguably their three top shooters, don't make a three, and they score 97. It was a really great night. They shared the ball really well. You always want to start with a W. And another thing Coach Gates said after the game was he wanted his team to experience a challenge right out of the gate. He did not change his defense in the second half. They gave up 64, I believe, in the second half. They gave up a ton of points. Southern Indiana shot the lights out. And Coach Gates wanted his team to play through it. And there's a lot of things that Coach Gates is going to adjust, game plan, strategy. But I thought it was really interesting. He wanted to send a message to his players. I want you to feel this. I want you to feel how it's going to feel to get a win. And they were able to do that. So it was a good, teachable first game for Mizzou.
Yeah, it is. And, kudos and hats off to Coach Gates for, that was a big game for him, being able to come in and get his first victory. He's done a great job, obviously, with bringing some great energy amongst the program. But I know in the back of his mind, he's like, man, I got to get this first win. And, what a good way to get it, facing a little bit of adversity, with the score trying to, get a little bit close. And they had to find a way to close out. And, again, 6 guys in double figures. So that's a great way to start. The ball, they're sharing the ball. A lot of guys are, showing what they are capable of doing this season. And again, like you mentioned, didn't shoot the ball well from 3 and was still able to do the things that they needed down the stretch to be able to maintain the lead without hitting the 3 ball. So a lot of good things with Coach Gates and his program. Obviously, we know what Kobe's going to be doing, but it was good to see some other guys, step up. I know Honor's a guy that's, fresh and new, and he's going to be, trying to figure out what his role is. But, it's a really great win for them. A lot of guys, if not scored double figures, really got close. They almost had 8 guys scoring double figures. So that just goes to show there's going to be a little bit of balance of scoring, and it could be anybody's night. So that's pretty good. And obviously, Kobe is going to do what Kobe's going to do. But now when Kobe looks around and says, man, I got this guy over here to my right that can score 11, 10 here. So, it makes things a lot easier for him, and it's a lot harder for the other opposing team to scout.
Absolutely. Some numbers that jump out: Mizzou had 64 points in the paint. They had 24 points off turnovers, and they had 19 fast break points. So those are three big categories of this game, and that's something that Coach Gates has really emphasized. It felt like when Missouri got a rebound, they were blowing that ball out. I mean, they were outletting it out. They wanted to throw the ball towards half court. I mean, they just wanted to go with it. And I appreciate that. This is, I come from Mike Anderson's system, fastest 40, where it was like a track meet. So it was giving me some flashbacks, but there are some things that they have to clean up defensively, particularly rotations and communication. But I just think those categories right there, and the fact they had 20 assists to 11 turnovers. So they took care of the ball. Nick Honor, Sean East, their 2 point guards, no turnovers combined between the two.
One thing they got going for them too. A lot of teams are still cleaning some things up. It's the first game, so they got nowhere to go but up.
Yep, no doubt. One of the things I think is kind of a peek behind the curtain that I always think is interesting is, numbers that coaches look at, and you can look at a stat sheet in game.
Yeah.
You look at individual numbers, team numbers. You look at your scouting pre-game plan going in, and analytics is such a big part of basketball now. But one of the things Coach Gates talked about when we talked after the game was player efficiency rating, and that's PER. So it's not points per game. It's nothing like that. It's really a stat that looks at productivity per minute, and that efficiency when you go in the game. Are you doing good things? And that doesn't have to mean scoring either. That can be deflections, that can be blocks, that can be rebounds, steals, assists, the whole bit. So his staff really looks at the numbers, and I think that's something that they played a lot of guys, and they're going to continue to play a lot of guys. They didn't even play Mo Jara, the number one JUCO recruit that they got. He's not. He will be playing this year. And Ronnie DeGray is, I think, trying to figure himself out. He's a returner. I think he could probably help this team at some point. But I just thought that was an interesting kind of peek behind the curtain. Is he wants guys to play efficient, and Kobe Brown was efficient. Aiden Shaw, the freshman from Kansas City, 4-star, he came right in the game, Jeff, and he did what freshmen. It's a dream scenario of what you want to see a freshman in the first game. He comes off the bench and he lets the game come to him. He was 4 for 4 from the field. Right, he had a spot up three. He had an offensive rebound stick back. He had a dunk. He had a backdoor cut for a finish. Little things like that go a long way for coach. And he switched 1 through 5, but their goal for him is he should rebound the ball at a really high number. He is so athletic. He can go get balls way outside of his area. Like his range for rebounds, he's so long. He can really impact the game in a big way. And I think he's learning, but he played hard. He came off the bench and he was ready to play. And it didn't involve school. He just played within himself. And he had, I think, 9 points almost off no dribbles. And that's what you want to see from a freshman.
Yeah, it is. And, kudos to Aiden Shaw, local guy as well, too. And you know what? I know Aiden's, been waiting for a moment like this, and he obviously took advantage of it. But going back to Coach Gates, he just has to be smiling from ear to ear, obviously in the back of his mind, knowing that they have a lot of work to do moving forward, but he has to be really pleased, obviously, with his guys and how they're buying in. And obviously when you can get some of your freshmen buying in as well too, and which can give you some hope for the future as well too, just kind of makes that coach have a little bit more balance, a little bit more energy, put in a little bit more work to make sure things are going to be right intact for when those guys become seniors as well too. So I mean, if I'm and I'm obviously not, I'm a KU guy, sorry, but if I'm a Missouri fan, I'm really excited about this Missouri program. And being a Jayhawk fan, I'm excited about this Missouri program. Just again, we talk about the rivalry and the border war being back again. I mean, it just makes good basketball. So I think at the end of the day, both fans want to see good basketball. And I think Missouri's on the right track right now as far as what Dennis Gates is doing with this program and getting his guys. And not only his guys, the fans are buying in as well, too. So only great things I think can go from the Missouri Tiger program.
Jeff, sit tight. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back here on the Border War Podcast. Welcome back to the Border War Podcast here on the Kansas City Sports Network, presented by 360 Vodka. Jeff, we're talking Mizzou. I want to hit on the Cleveland State guys, the fifth-year seniors. We talked about 2 defensive players of the year that are on this roster. Let's start with Trey Gomillion. I was really impressed with how unselfish he is. He is a winning basketball player. He impacts winning in a lot of ways. He is their coach on the floor by far. Came off the bench and immediately gives them a jolt. I mean, he is energy. He defends, he competes, he can make shots, he can make catch and shoot shots, he can hit floaters. I was really impressed with him. Demoy Hodge will start. I think he's the perfect 3-and-D piece who absolutely knows how to play a 3-and-D role. So much of the time you hear 3-and-D and guys get labeled that and they have no idea, what that means. Demoy Hodge is he epitomizes that. He's a catch and shoot player. He can put on the floor a little bit. I was really impressed with how he guarded, defended, turned guys in the open floor. He's got quick hands, but he doesn't foul. He knows when to be strategic. He has that natural instinct of knowing if the ball's exposed, that he's got great quickness to know where the ball's going to be, to get those. Some guys just want to try to get steals and they pick up those cheap fouls. He really cerebral and kind of seeing those angles. Really was impressed with him. And then DeAndre Golston in the second half. He probably forced a little bit in the first half. Second half, in the Southern Indiana game, he really did a nice job of just getting into a flow, getting into a rhythm, showcasing his physical strength, got to the free throw line. He was more locked in the second half. All three of those guys really had impressive moments in their first game.
Yeah, and you know what? All three of those guys that you just mentioned, they all had pretty much stuffed the stat sheet. They either had a rebound, assist, a steal. I think Golston was the only one that did not have a block, but the rest of them had a block, a steal, some three. So, I mean, just to be able to see the numbers being spread out and seeing them doing it on the defensive end. And another thing that, stands out to me about the Missouri program is that they're sharing the ball. 20 assists in that game as well, too. That means the ball's not sticking. Obviously you can tell by guys almost having 8 guys in double figures, but the ball's not sticking. And I think it goes to show with those guys that came from Cleveland State, they know what he's looking for. And I think that's is very key when you come in as a first year coach. Most coaches don't come in like that, where you can come in and guys already know what you're looking for, and they can kind of carry it out and show other guys what you're looking for. I just think it makes it a lot easier for the learning process. And again, Coach Gates is doing his thing over there, and it's going to be fun to see where you guys where the Tigers end up at the end of the season when it comes March Madness time.
One of the guys that I think we have to hit on is Isaiah Mosley, who came off the bench. And he is a guy that took 2 charges, off-ball charges, and got 2 steals. And this is a guy that has had to showcase that he can improve on defense. It's a big emphasis right now, Coach Gates and Isaiah. Yeah. Isaiah is a great offensive player. Isaiah is critical to Mizzou having success long-term. Make no mistake about it. These first few games, he's coming off the bench. I don't expect him to come off the bench as the year goes on. He's just too good of a scorer. When you get in the league, he's going to have to be the guy. Yeah. He made some great passes. His assist numbers could have been much higher if guys stuck some shots and open shots too. But Isaiah made some great reads. I was really impressed because he's been labeled as a scorer. He's a 50, 40, 90 guy. So much is made about his scoring. Yeah. He can shoot it, and he can create his own shot. He did some of that right when he got in the game the other night. He had a couple plays where he just got a bucket on his own, which you knew was going to happen. But it's those little things that you want to draw out of this game that you can build on for the future, and that is his passing, that is his defense. And when he took that charge, he showed a ton of emotion where he wanted to do that. I mean, being a great defender, you got to sacrifice and take charges. Yeah, I think that's a huge part of being a defender. If you're a great defender, you got to know how to take a charge, sacrifice your body. It is. I think it's a skill. Yeah, it's a big part of a defensive package. You got to know how, hey, if I'm undersized and a big, curling, rolling, and I can beat him to the spot and take a charge, those type of things go a long way. A lot of guys bail out of that stuff. Yeah, toughness. Exactly. Taking a charge is all toughness. Yeah. And that was a great, great sign for a guy that's labeled as a scorer, an offensive player, showcasing other areas of his game that he's got to show.
Again, I've given, Coach Gates a lot of kudos, but I think, again, that's a reflection of him, being able to switch the mindset of a scorer to make him wanting to make plays on the defensive end. And when you get guys playing on the defensive end and not thinking about the offensive end and focusing energy on the defensive end, offense comes easy because you're getting good looks. You're getting better looks than you're normally getting. The energy is different too. So, again, it's gonna be fun to see where you guys get to, man.
Yeah, I did want to. I think you're your points about Coach Gates are so valid, because I think, you always, and you're a coach yourself, and you always, your players are a reflection of you. You hear it all the time. Coach Gates has emphasized so many times, and I've heard him say this multiple times since Mizzou hired him, you got to play with passion. That is a big part of Coach. You got to, when you step on the floor in practice or in a game, you got to play with some fire. Mm-hmm. And I saw that from Kobe Brown, who is a very soft-spoken, very reserved guy, and he has been his entire career. He showed more emotion than I have ever seen on a basketball court, and he has been a double-double. He's had productive night. We know Kobe Brown.
Yeah.
But my gosh, I just thought that from the jump, and his body looks great, and he definitely looks like he's improved in areas that he really wanted to identify. But his energy level, I mean, he had a dunk on the baseline that he was flexing, and then he made the play of the night where he drove baseline and made a no-look pass to a cutting Noah Carter for a dunk and an and one. And he went crazy. And he showed that emotion that I think really says a lot, I think, of Coach Gates getting that out of Kobe, bringing that out. And that's been a habit that they've tried to instill with him right since they took the job. They want people talking in practice. They have touch points in practice. There's a lot of things that you already can see that are changing in terms of Coach Gates trying to set that culture.
Yep. Hey, and that if you're a first-year coach, that's what you want. And, you want these guys playing behind you, believing in you. And, I mean, I think it's no better formula when you look at the first game. Just look at the balanced scoring. I mean, that's tough to scout.
Yeah,
that
is
tough to scout.
No question.
That is tough to scout.
One of the things we'll look forward to, Missouri plays Penn on Friday at home, so second game. One of the things I think is going to be an emphasis is cleaning up the defensive side of the ball, and that was Coach Gates mentioned a lot of overhelping and guys wanting to go be the first helper, but the backside was left wide open a lot, and that's all communication, that's all trust. That's all, as you mentioned, reps, that takes some time in game, reps, all those things. Your rotations aren't set yet. But I think containing the ball too, one of the things that I learned so much about playing in Coach Anderson's system, when you're going to play up tempo and you're going to play fast, and that's how you want to play, you better be good in defensive transition, because teams see that and they want to take it right back down your throat because you're not getting back. And I think that's something that Mizzou's really got to identify, is understanding rotations. They talk about their shell defense and setting their defense, but too many times in that first game, they're running back and they're not identifying the ball. They're not turning their heads, those type of things. And I think that got them snake bit a little bit in the second half, but that's something you can clean up. Outside of that, I thought it was just a really, really good night. And finally, I just want to give credit to the Mizzou student section. It was absolutely packed. And I have to say that because, look, over the years, I've called a lot of Mizzou games. I've called Mizzou games for 9 years. And for an opener, as most students I've seen, I mean, it was packed. It was full. That is a great sign.
Yeah,
Coach Gates talked about he wants his players to be in a sellout game before Kansas, before December 10th. We know that game's going to be a sellout. Yeah. He wants to see Mizzou Arena packed, 15,000 strong. He wants his players to feel that environment before they play Kansas. It's and I think that's such a great message to put out there. I think the fans can hear that. And look, the energy in that building the other night was great. It was a new energy. There's a lot of things that they're going to have to get better at. It's year one. They're going to go through growing pain. This is just the beginning. But there's a lot of positives to take away from this. I think the fans really need to look in that as well in getting behind these guys to start out. Let them feel that. Let Coach Gates feel that too. I think that's really important. Something Conzo Martin had. Now, that was with Michael Porter and Jonte Porter and Jeremiah Tillman and Blake Harris and those guys. This is a little different for Dennis Gates, but I still think it's good to set the tone with a new head coach. So we'll see how they fare on Friday. They got Penn. Should be a good one. Penn's a very good team. And I think coming from a really good league in the Ivy, there's some good teams in the Ivy. Should be a good one on Friday.
Oh, yeah.
Jeff, happy birthday.
Thank you.
Enjoy the last few hours of your birthday.
Yes.
And, we'll look forward to talking next week about Mizzou.
All right, you betcha. Have a good one.